Welcome to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Goal podcast, your destination for all things lacrosse. I'm your host, Kyle Devitt, and across from me in the interwebs is Mr. Jack Piatelli. Look at the glow you have. Look at the summer glow.
I'm feeling much better since the surgery on my neck. You just kicked me off the beach. I came back. I was on the beach, walking the beach this morning. But anything for you, and very excited about our next guest. He's a legend in the lacrosse world, Matt Hogan. Matt graduated from Springfield College, and I believe it was 1982.
Yes.
Matt's been around the game for a long time. He's a pioneer in the game. Has done so much for the game, and pleasure to have you, Matt.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Kyle. I'm glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me aboard. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think before we started recording, I was telling you a story about how I was walking with my former editor at Inside Lacrosse, and you were loading a truck that said HoganLax on it, and I was like, what's that? He's like, oh, you should know who that is. And I was like, oh yeah, and I kind of did a wave, and you were just busy, and I was like, all right, it's too early to meet new people. Let's get coffee. And I do know that your name is ubiquitous in the Baltimore area, and looking at your coaching resume, you can see why. Jack mentioned you graduated from Springfield in '82. You went right into coaching at the University of Maryland. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It was it's a Springfield tie. So when I graduated from Springfield, typical college student, probably April of my senior year, I decided what I didn't want to do was be a phys ed teacher. So I spent 4 years learning how to be a phys ed teacher and realized with a month to go in school, it's not what I wanted to do. But I started writing all the college coaches in New England that I knew that I want to be a coach. And my father one day said, why don't you write to the best school in the country? Like that, they don't know who I am. He goes, write them. So I did. And it was interesting that those are the guys that responded. The best schools responded. And Dino Matisich, who was the head coach of the University of Maryland, wrote back and said, I don't have anything to pay you. I'll give you all the responsibility you earn, and you're welcome to come down. And so my brother was a senior at University of Maryland then, so I moved in, slept on his sofa, and I coached there, and I did a bunch of different odd jobs, and Dean and I have become friends, and he's a mentor to me. And he told me probably about halfway through the year, one of the reasons he reached back out to me was, now remember, Dino was a two-time national champ, captain of the national championship team at Maryland. He applied to Springfield out of high school and didn't get in. So he thought that if I got in, I was worthy to be an assistant coach for him.
Wow, that's a great story, Matt. Yeah. Really a great story. So how long were you in Maryland for? Just the 1 year?
I was there for 1 year. I wanted to get my master's. I really thought that was important. Another great story, the department chair for phys ed changed in our coach locker room. And he kept on telling me I can't coach and go to school because all the classes were 3 to 6. So Bob Schillow from the University of Delaware, when I met at a camp, I applied. I went up there. And actually, the day I was leaving Maryland, I ran into the department chair of phys ed. And he goes, oh, we could have worked that out. I said, well, you should have told me that 6 months ago, not now, already gone. So I moved up to Delaware. I established residency, started going to school, and then so I got my master's in phys ed in about a year and a half while coaching, being a substitute teacher in the Wilmington School District.
And then you went back to Maryland, right?
What's that?
Then you went back to Maryland.
Then I went back to Maryland. So I was at Delaware. I was making a whopping $750 a year coaching lacrosse. And I wanted to do, it was time for me to move on. And Dick Adele now was the head coach at Maryland. And I worked his camp, so we got along fine. So I went down there, and I was probably the original volunteer, one of the original volunteer coaches. So it was Dave Slavkowski, Kevin O'Leary on the staff. And I was sort of the volunteer, and they did that for a year before I went up to Clark's University in Potsdam, New York.
I didn't realize you were at Clarkson, but you've had quite the career in terms of the coaching, what you've done with Hogan Lacrosse and so on and so forth. But one of the questions I had for you was, back in 1982, you graduated from Springfield. You had a great career. I know you went to the NCAAs. I believe it was your senior year that you went to?
Yeah, we were like 4 and, 30 my first 2 years. Last year we were ranked 7th in the country. and played Washington College. It was a great game.
Yeah, and it's ironic, when I was at Springfield my junior year, we went in the NCAA tournament. We played Washington College. We were 7th ranked in the country, but we didn't have a great result. We got killed in that game. They had a lot of good players on that team in '86. Ricky Soul and the Cortland coach, Beef was on that team too.
Yeah.
But back,
Kevin Gibler's probably on the team. John
yes,
Noakes.
yeah. Yep. It was a great team. So when I see Ricky Soul, he always gives me a hard time about that game because we lost by a lot. And but it was a great experience. But when I went on my recruiting trip, I spent the night with you or at Springfield College, and I remember you telling me the great thing about college sports and Springfield College, and I try to pass this message along, is the relationships you build. And look at all the relationships you've built in the lacrosse community. It's amazing.
It's been a long. I mean, I've doing this a long time, right? And I think I do. I'm very thankful and appreciative of the relationships I have with a ton of really special people in all, whether it's at Clarkson University or University of Maryland, or Academy, or State Mary's High School. Those relationships are probably the most important thing that I think about more than anything else.
Just kind of encompassing the college career. You coached in the college ranks for 20 years, some varying levels, some similar levels. The game must have changed a lot, especially in those developmental years of the 80s all the way through to the early 2000s. What are like 2 things that really changed from that beginning to the end of that run for you in the game of lacrosse that you witnessed?
One would be the physicality, the attempt and success, I think now, of not mandating, officiating rules to limit the number of hits to players. When I was playing, probably when Jack was in high school and college also, if you shot the ball, you got hit. It didn't matter how much later the ball was left your stick, you got freaking hit. And it wasn't cool. It just, when you were a shooter, you hit. You got to defend yourself or do whatever you got to do. But I think the limitation on hitting, and I fought that initially as an old school guy, fought that. And I think now that I'm a club director and running tournaments and I'm a little older, a little wiser, I'm very, very supportive of that change. I think there's some things we'll go a little bit too far in one direction. But I think the limitations on the abuse players were taking, it has been a good change for lacrosse. The other part is the equipment is stupid good. I mean, even from my son, who's now 33 years old, when he was first started playing, you couldn't find pads and shoulder pads that fit. The gloves were massive and bulky and hard. I remember the first time I tried to get him, he was in kindergarten, and trying to get him his helmet to fit. I'd put his helmet on in the kitchen. He'd run on the first floor, and I would hear this big bang. It was him falling over because the helmet was so heavy, you couldn't turn. So I have to put the helmet on so tight. Mouthpiece had to be in before I put the chin strap on because if the helmet bobbled, he fell over. So I think the equipment has been significantly improved. I think the rules and the equipment have really made a difference in the game.
I got a question. I guess it's a 2-part question, but I think personally, the rules have made it a better game. I think you would agree. I don't know, maybe not, but do you think the equipment has made it a better game?
I think particularly for younger players. I'm not sure it's affected the college player as much. I think the sticks now just hold, right? I think that's, and I'm not so sure that's a bad thing. I think that's, you look at every professional sport in lacrosse, scoring is what everybody wants. And I think that's helped them. But the little guys, one of the things we just learned, we had, president of USA Lacrosse come speak at that town, and one of the things he said, there are more third graders playing lacrosse now than ever before. I think that's a great thing. I think that's a really positive thing, because the trend we've heard in the past so many years has been that's going the other direction. I think some of that is the sports growing out to the West and Midwest. But part of it is, I think also the equipment's so much better for younger. Yes, Jack. I also think the rules. I mean, the clearing counts, the shot clock. I mean, when we played, you could take as long as you wanted to clear the ball, and the goalie defenseman just play catch back and forth for a minute. I mean, how boring would that be to watch? Right.
It was boring to watch. It was boring to watch. And back to the physicality. I remember, when you took a shot, not only were you hit, but you get an elbow in the face, you get a punch in the face. You had to go down. We were playing on grass. We were playing on dirt. You got a mouthful of mud, but you know what? You got up and you loved every minute of it because you wanted to get that guy back. Plus, the other thing is they were using wooden shafts. Shaft.
I used a wooden shaft at Springfield until March, because otherwise my hands would freeze to the metal. Right. And I remember Hobart, when the PL66 is, well, I'm really dating myself right now. Kyle probably doesn't know what a PL66 even is.
I'm a gear nerd. I know what it is.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
That Hobart was like porting PL66 because they didn't bend when you hit somebody with. When you hit somebody with a PL66, it didn't bend. And the pole was that around really heavy aluminum. It wasn't the hex lightweight stuff. That was heavy gear. And so I think it's interesting. I think that has all made the game that. I mean, my older brothers, again, they played with wooden sticks. I remember getting one of the first plastic sticks in, I think it was like third grade. And that was a huge thing. And then mesh. I mean, did you play with a standard stick, Jack, or did you play with a mesh stick?
I played with the standard stick all through high school and 2 years into college, and then mesh became somewhat possible. By my senior year, I was using mesh, and then when I played indoor, I used the Super Light 2 in the mesh because we were sponsored by Brian. But I also remember back when we played, the wing guys could go in and hit the face-off guy. Just think of that today. If that happened today, I bet you some of the coaches would want that rule to come back, to eliminate, the clamp and the go. And you know what I mean? And that's how you eliminate the dominate, full go. But you think of the rules back in the day, it was crazy, just crazy. The contact that was allowed. Maybe that's why I'm a little crazy.
As a wing, your job was to keep your opponent on your wing away from hitting your guy. I can't remember, my sophomore year, my junior year was when we didn't have face-offs. That was a year we didn't have face-offs. And that's where the long pole midi was born, because you get the ball at midfield and coaches started putting in defensive personnel because you knew you were going to be on defense, so they put defensive personnel in. And that was the birth of the long pole midi.
Interesting. So after goal, you got the ball at midfield, correct?
Yep.
And then didn't they also allow 6 long poles at the time?
I don't think that happened until, yes. I don't think that was something that I remember happened when I was at Navy. Was I at Navy or Delaware? I was at the University of Delaware.
Okay.
And there was a rule change. I forgot what it was, but people were riding with 9 poles.
That's crazy.
We did that at Delaware. And then Princeton was clearing with 9 shorts.
Wow.
So if you rode somebody, the substitution box was just crazy, because you as a riding team had to sub your 6 poles out, and the clearing team had to get 3 shorts out. So it was, or all 6 if they tried to. But yeah, we were riding with 9 poles, and people were playing defense with 6 poles.
So when I was at Springfield, I don't know, we're 4 years apart, but like to your point, if somebody took a shot, right, and it went out of bounds and the other team got possession because they were closest to the end line, the horn went off. You had the horns, and we had a riding team that would go out. Everybody would come off the field and a whole riding team. So the big thing is, like, when you were a freshman, if you weren't starting, you wanted to get on that riding team because you got down on the field. So more players got to play back then because you had a riding team, you had a clearing team, you had your man up team, you had your starters, right?
Every single whistle you could call for a horn.
Crazy.
God, we need to get you guys on the rules committee so you can remind people what it was like. Everyone keeps making all these crazy changes, and it's like, you don't need to change much now. Can we stop? Just my whole philosophy on it, and it's funny, like we can talk about the gear later because I have a totally different perspective on it. But my idea with the rules is like, what's broken right now? And it's everyone's like, oh, face-offs. How long are you going to screw with face-offs for? Are you going to do that till you get rid of them? Is that really what it is? Are you going to totally eliminate an entire position because X amount of coaches don't like not being able to get their possession back on the draw when they can get it back in like 100 different other ways? I mean, a couple of years ago, the whole thing that was in vogue was like, oh, we're going to do a drop ride and we'll get it back in the ride. And there was some teams that had success with that, and you can still have success with that. But those same people are like, no, I want to get rid of the face-off. Like this whole, like, you can't clamp the ball. It's like, well, the goalie can't clamp the ball then. Like it doesn't make, a lot of the arguments that I hear are nonsensical, and it's coaches just imposing their will on a rule change because they don't like how it affected them in a game or a series of games. And I think that we need to have a moratorium on rule changes. And I know that's probably controversial. Everyone's trying to change everything, blah, blah, blah. But the sport is good. It's better than it's ever been. I don't, rule-wise, I don't think that's disputable. Do you guys agree with that or disagree with it?
I would hope, because of constant change, we're always better, right? I think that's part of it. I am a big fan. There are things that you can do at the face-off that you can't do anywhere else in the field. I think that's a mistake. I am, if you look at the game, I'm trying to get it to grow and maybe be on TV and make it a faster sport. If you want all of that, then the face-off needs to go.
Wow.
It needs to go. If you're not concerned about that and you don't want the sport to grow quickly, you don't have a concern about sports being on TV or not, then the face-off can stay. We had, I think was it Dave Gavitt? He was commissioner of the Big East, and his son played lacrosse in North Carolina, spoke to the coaches convention, and he said to us, your sport's too slow and your sport takes too long to play to be on TV. I think we significantly change that. But could you imagine basketball being anywhere near it is in global popularity if after every hoop they had a tip-off? Yeah. That's what we're doing in lacrosse. We're doing the exact same thing. We're doing tip-off after every goal. Basketball would not be a sport that has gazillions watching around the world if they still did that. So that to me, I love face-off. I was a face-off guy. I believe it's traditional. I agree with that. But if you want it to be this sport to grow and gain popularity, I think it needs to go after goals. Shoot, okay. Basketball doesn't do a tip-off at halftime anymore.
But hockey does. Hockey still does face-offs. Hockey does extra face-offs.
You know what I mean? It's not a possession game. Hockey's different. Yeah, hockey's not a possession game.
Yeah, it's not a possession sport.
I mean, lacrosse can be played like not a possession sport. This is what I'm saying. So the variety of the way that you can play it is there with lacrosse because of the face-off, in my opinion, because it is a differentiating characteristic of how possession is managed or mismanaged right? And yes, I think it's a problem when you have guys that are so dominant that it's 80% or 70%. But I think we're finding now that that's going down because the specialization of the position is making it so those guys are outliers now. Instead of so for example, let's talk about like Alex Smith. Alex Smith at Delaware revolutionized how you take faceoffs, how you win the ball, how you keep other people away from the ball, how you can keep possession after the draw. He had athleticism with the ball that no one had seen really, right? You had a lot of guys like Shanahan is probably the best example I could think of, guy at Hofstra that could win it and score and use a regular stick and all that stuff and still have an impact. Kyle Harrison was like that too. People forget that, right? The athleticism that they had to keep playing and of the lack of specialization is actually what I like. So I see what you're saying. I think how I would attack it is I would say that the face-off is important. The specialization of the face-off should be, I think it's too late now to put the genie back in the bottle, but I do agree that the specialization of it isn't great for developing new kids. But I will say this, like young kids all want to face off because it's different. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've talked to them. I've coached young kids. I've coached kids at JV level. They're like, Coach, can I take a face off? And I was like, do you know how to do it? And then I'll watch them line up. I was like, okay, well, here are the basics. And I think that's the disconnect is how that's being taught. I think that you can only be this if you can't do these other things. To me, that's wrong, right? Like you should be able to do all these other things and do this. But because of the specialization, you can't do that anymore. And I think that's a way to look at it. And I totally respect your opinion. I just think that the real problem is not that. The real problem is that we're having people this has been cured a little bit, but that can't play other positions. You can't play defense. You can't play offense. You're a face-off guy. All you can do is pinch pop, pinch pop, pinch pop. I don't like that either. I totally get that point of view and I agree with it, but I don't know how to couch that. I don't like getting rid of it for the sake of getting rid of it because we need it to be faster. I think it's plenty fast. I really do. And I get it, but
I'm on Matt's side. What do you have to say, Matt?
Yeah.
Let's go old school again, Jack. You probably played. There were years where there was a cone on the scorer's table, and you couldn't sub after a face-off until the cone was on its side, and there had to be a whistle. So there's a whistle for the face-off. Nobody could sub until there was a whistle. So what you would do is you'd win the face-off, go down on offense, and just shoot the ball a million miles over the goal. They'd blow the whistle, then you could sub. I don't mean the game being played faster. I think what people want, and I think what TV wants, is the goal to be scored and then to be action right away. Right? Not the delay between goal and face off.
Okay.
I think kids, to your point, Kyle, kids can face off and play. And we had a kid up till 2029, up till last year, do that. I'm one of our better middies, and our best face-off guy. But there comes a time where you better be awfully good to be able to do that when you're spending time shooting and dodging and playing defense and all this stuff, and the other guy's just doing face-off.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes it's not that coaches don't want that. Coaches want the dual threat guy. The more multifaceted you are, the more valuable you are. The challenge is, how long can you continue to dominate at 3 or 4 different things when somebody else is just doing one of them?
Great point.
Right? That's the challenge.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would contest is if you go to a game and you want to see Jeff Teat with the ball, one of the best offensive players ever to play the game, and he's playing against a team that, and I saw it when they played against Princeton his sophomore year, he never got the ball because they couldn't win a faceoff. People come to watch Jeff Teat play, and You want both sides to get the ball. And all right, now it's an even playing field. Who's got the best offense? Who's got the best defense? Who's got the best goalie? Who's got the best players on the field? Let's go.
Hi, I'm Rachel Hedden, head girls lacrosse coach at the Frederick Gunn School, an independent high school in Connecticut. We play in one of the most competitive prep school leagues and place athletes at top college programs. To learn more, visit gogun.org. That's GOGUNN.org.
Hey, it's Bobby Moran, Director of Athletics at Thayer Academy. You know what? Experience matters, and Thayer Academy's professional coaching staff understands how to work with each student athlete to help them succeed. Our coaches and faculty are committed to ensuring both 5th to 12th graders feel known, connected, and prepared. This is Thayer's secret sauce, nurturing each student to reach their full potential. Here, success is truly a team sport. Are you ready for your child to take the next step? See what Thayer has to offer at thayer.org. That's THAYER.org.
I think one thing I would say to that is, in terms of strategy and not letting players get the ball, people have done that with great players for a very long time. I mean, all you have to do is watch any tape, watch an entire game of Lyle Thompson instead of his highlights. See what teams tried to do, right? You can learn so much about that, and you can learn what people are trying to do against Teat. I think what got messed up and what would have been a great case study for what you guys are saying is the PLL should have just got rid of the faceoff and not made the shot clock ungodly small. I think 60 seconds is great. I actually think it's ideal. I think 60-second shot clock, ideal for lacrosse. I really do. And I don't know how to argue against it. Having a super short shot clock destroys your offense in the last 10 seconds. And what we see teams do, and the PLL did this first, I'll give them a lot of credit. They would sub off with 10 seconds left in the middies would sub off. They'd kick it down to X. They'd sub off. They'd try to let the attack create. And then they would just drop guys to kill transition. Is that what you want to see? You want to see no transition? That's where I get upset with that kind of approach, even though I know I'm arguing for it as to gamify things, right? Like, I love the strategy of lacrosse, and the analytics side of my brain is always trying to find ways to do things differently. And maybe we've exhausted that, but making the shot clock shorter is not the answer. I think we've seen that now play out in the PLL, where these games could have been 21-18, to your point. And if there was no face-off, it probably could even be 30-25. That's not out of the realm of possibility at all, even with a short, especially with a short field and the short clock, the running clock. But taking out the face, I want to see it happen. And I know that we're going to get into sixes, Coach, because I know you have a sixes program. And I'm trying to come around on it. I'm going to tell you this. I've gotten so much heat for the last 6 years about it, and I'm trying to come around. But to me, it's just gym class. And I want it to work. And that has that same thing where you just miss the net and you get the ball back. Do you like that aspect of it?
I haven't seen this, and I meant to go watch the game. I know the rules, and one of the things I wanted to ask someone who does sixes is why is that rule in place? Why is it that you shoot, you don't get it back? Lacrosse is the only sport that I'm aware of that if you shoot and miss, you get it back, and maybe that's why. But I think my impression is that it's not lowering scoring. And two is that maybe one reason, but I don't know why that is in place in sixes versus field. I don't know the answer to that.
I think it's just to do what you're saying with the faceoffs. It's to get more possessions. I think it's literally just to artificially inflate possessions. Personally, that's it's my real bugaboo with it. And the reason is that not that it does the possession thing. I actually don't think that's the bad part about it. I think the bad part about it is it eliminates X. It eliminates offense from X. And Jack, you're an attackman. I'm a reformed attackman. I'm probably going to play midfield the rest of my life once my knee heals, because old man lacrosse goes that way. So if you can run, you play midfield. I love generating anything that generates from X. My favorite players of all time are X attackmen, and sixes does not care about that. And everyone's more mad about the polls. I get it. But if you miss and you can't get a restart, the restart is one of the most exciting plays in lacrosse. We used to have plays on the restart all the time. You don't see it as much anymore because I think defenses are a little more, protecting the cone a little bit better, protecting the front of the goal. But that's a very exciting portion of lacrosse. It's now just gone. And it makes the X attackman expendable because your skill set doesn't get utilized enough for you to have value in sixes and on the field, right?
And you attack and can't play any defense. You're no good at sixes anyhow. Whether you're X or not, you're not going to play any defense. So
Great point. It's a great point.
It's a midfielder's game. That's why I like it so much.
Well, yeah, I think the reason that you don't get the possession back for the younger players who are playing sixes, they're trying to teach them how to get their shots on cage and take quality shots, right? Because it's really when we have sixes. The whole idea is, okay, make sure you take the shot the right time. Make sure you get your shot on cage. And if you don't, you're going to lose possession. So now they're learning that the ball means so much more to them on offense than just shoot it. I know I'm going to get it back. Just shoot it. I know I'm going to get it back. So Matt, I'm going to change subjects.
Okay.
You've done a great job building Hogan Lacrosse. I wanted to just mention you had a son who played it at Cornell as well. You've had, not only your son is a big part of your life, and now he's a college coach too, and the legacy continues. But tell us a little bit about Hogan Lacrosse, how you got started, where it started, and where it is today. Because I've attended a number of your tournaments and followed you, and you've done a great job building, your program, your club program, the Hawks. So I want to learn more about that.
When I left, I was the head coach at the University of Pennsylvania, and I left to be the assistant principal and head lacrosse coach at St. Mary's back here in Annapolis. And I took a pretty hefty pay cut. So I was looking for ways to supplement that pay, and one was through tournaments. Clubs were just getting going. And for 2 years, I started my first tournament. We had 8 teams in it. It was Kevin Gibbons' team, Georgetown Prep, Jake Reed, Old Bay Lacrosse, Broadneck High School local here, Chuck Rubling's Patriots Lacrosse, and a couple others. And it just flew. And it was just something I wanted to do, something income. I was off in the summers, something I could do, have some fun with. And a couple years later, we started the club, and it was really basically to try to get local kids, for me to get in front of local kids to basically recruit communities was really the idea. Grade. And we used to go into England. My brother Mike, who lives down here, ran a tour every other year. Kids from Annapolis area would go to England, and then England would come to Annapolis the other year. And I went on that trip twice. And I really thought it was great how all the different kids from all different areas and backgrounds from the Anne Arundel County area went over there. And so we started the club. Tournament business blew up right away. That's just summer exposure from 8, 16, 32, 64, 132 teams. And we went from, 8, now we have about 890 teams come through our events a year. We had 2 club teams the first year. Now we have 16 club teams now. We have our event in Florida that was one of my favorite events. It's high school teams, predominantly high school teams from New England. You got New Jersey. Actually, I was hung up with a team from Tennessee this morning. I recall teams come down to Florida for a week, 4 to 5 nights. They train. We house them, feed them, provide transportation, arrange scrimmages, games, trainers. They practice on the fields we have. We have guys like Dave Cottle, John Desto, Winston, probably one of the best women's coach ever, come down and work with the teams if the teams want us to. So it really turned into something that I never imagined this would be what I'd be doing for my living. I did not. And 2010, 2008, the Archdiocese of Baltimore, which St. Mary's was a part of, mandated that you had to go back to school and be certified to be an administrator or a teacher. And the funny thing is, my mom told me the day that I came back, Matt, go get your certification. Matt, go, Mom, I don't need it. Mom, I don't need it. Well, 9 years later, I needed it. So I turned to my wife and I go, this HoganLax thing has to go. I'm probably a couple more years, 4 years more at St. Mary's, and I'm probably gone. And we just put a lot more energy and effort into it, and we did really well with it. And after 2 years, I said to her, I need to go because I'm spending 80% of my time on 20% of my income. And if I don't do a good job and paying more attention to HoganLax, we're probably going to lose it. So I went from working out of my house for 10 months to getting a small office, and then hiring somebody, and then moving to a little bigger office with warehouse space, to being acquired by 3-Step. Now we're in a massive office with a huge warehouse space. So now we have 2.5, 3.5 full-time employees, whereas it used to just be me and my wife. So it's been a good ride. I've learned a lot. It was a good time in my life at 50 years old to try to change over from what I've been doing to become more of a business savvy and looking at P&L. I didn't really think P&L was when I started, right? And I love what I do now. You know, I'm around the game of lacrosse still, and I'm around young people watching the game of lacrosse. So it's been a lot of fun. Been a great ride.
Matt, what over the time, like what surprises you the most in terms of where the game is when you started playing and where it is today?
This will probably be some negative things. You know, this is this summer I was very disappointed in where our game is right now from a club and event standpoint. The amount of, no other word to use, but people cheating, playing older players with younger players and teaching. We had a player that was told by his parents to lie about his age, and the player told us that. What the heck are we teaching?
Yeah.
We're teaching a 5th grader to lie about his age so you can win a T-shirt. I just was very disillusioned by the number of people and teams I had to ask to leave my tournaments because they were cheating, and it was being supported by parents, club directors, coaches, adults. And I really struggled with that this summer. I think that's one of the things I don't like that I'm seeing.
It's gotten ugly. They need to do something with the reclasses. Like what we do in our club program is if you're in that class, you can play in that class, right? But if you're going to tell me that you're going to post grad because you want to play down, you're not playing. You're not playing.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. But funny, Jack, what I found this summer was the most of the violations was like 4th and 5th grade.
That's crazy. Crazy.
I mean, I really struggled with that this year. I think the game is growing. I think there's opportunity to play. I think, you know, I've had I think what kids are learning. I think the coaching has gone through the roof. There are a lot of good coaches out there.
Yeah.
You can find a lot of high quality coaches, and kids are being coached good things at a very young age and how to play. You know, the other day I was out with my family and my brothers and sisters, and they said something. I told my 2nd grade team, and they said, well, "How good can they be?" I said, "They're really good." They go, "They can catch and throw." I said, "Oh yeah, they can catch and throw." I mean, you would be surprised how good these 2nd graders are. It's just not like we're trying to teach them how to catch and throw. We're trying to teach them how to play the game right now. And so I think that the coaching has gotten a lot better, and I'm real pleased with that. I think we got to be careful, and this is something I think USA Lacrosse and USILA has been saying for years. We got to start monitoring ourselves as coaches and how we treat officials, because no one's going to want to do it very soon. And I'm very happy to see some of my ex-Hawks are now officiating. I'm really proud of them for doing that. But it's been a point of emphasis with our club to back off the officials, even when they're wrong. You're not going to change it. just move on. And I think we need to start treating officials with a little bit more respect, and in particular, coaches and our parents.
I don't know if you saw the article. I don't know where it was in the country about the parents at a baseball game berating the official, the umpire in baseball. So the organization, the town organization, had the parents take the course to become an umpire in baseball, then had them officiate baseball games until they're allowed back as a fan to watch the game. And I think that lacrosse needs to take steps like that in order to, keep the sidelines in line. My brother, I ref for a year, and I said I had enough.
Yeah.
Trying to give back to the game. But one of the other things I don't like about club, and Kyle is very versed in the club, is you've got high school coaches now who are telling their kids, if you don't play for the club team that I coach, you're not going to play for me at the high school. That's happening. That's happening as well. And that's not good.
That's a school administrator needs to step in and take, and that has happened here, and it's cost some guys their jobs.
Yeah.
But I think that the leveraging young people is a mistake.
Yeah.
Let me put, there's a lot of good going on, and those are just some things maybe that happened recently to me that I was very disappointed in. I see changing in, but I think the competitiveness, the level of coaching, the quality of skills that players have now is much better than it used to be.
I think the thing we're not talking about too is like the money changes a lot of things. And I think that I'm not defending coaches that do that at all. But if you're a high school coach, at least where I'm from, I make after taxes like $2,400 maybe. And I'm a head JV coach and the assistant, and the head coach makes very little more than that. And these club programs are offering double that, triple that to certain coaches if they're on teams that are winning and they have kids that they want, because the real, again, I'm not disparaging this, but this is real. I'm not speaking lies here. The greatest commodity in lacrosse is players. And I've said that 100 times. People get mad every time I say it. I'm like, when you don't have millions of dollars to make playing the game, like basketball or football or baseball or something like that, your next greatest thing is what's the brass ring? What's the attraction, right? And it's to get into a great college and have a great career, which makes sense. That's very logical, right? The way that people have been getting there has not been great. And that is kind of trickling down and having a negative effect. And you see it happen with parents who listen to someone who's like, if your kid plays for me, I'll get him into an SCAC, I'll get him into an IV, I'll get him a scholarship. And that you have parents going around, and I say this as often as I can because parents need to hear this. You're not getting a full ride to play lacrosse. Get it out of your head. The kid's got to be able to be academically stand on his own, and he's got to be able to produce athletically to have a shot at that. Just because you play at X and not Y doesn't guarantee anything. The thing that bothers me is the guarantees that are being thrown around. No one should be guaranteeing anything to any of these players except I'm going to do my best to make you better. Do you know what I mean? That's the guarantee you have to make. If you're a coach stepping on a field, if you're a coach trying to recruit a player for your club program, you're not going, I'm going to get you into this. If you say that, you're crossing a line. What you should say is, I'm going to do my best to make you better and to give you more opportunities, because that's not a lie. The other thing's a lie. And that's what I don't like. And that's what a lot of parents should know is not true, in my opinion.
I used to do a talk to our parents when I was a dean of students, that if your child speaks in absolutes, your bullshit flag needs to go up, right? Nobody else has to wear the school shoes. Nobody else has a curfew at midnight. Everybody gets to stay out till 2:00 in the morning. When your child speaks in absolute, here it needs to go up. And when anyone guarantees you anything, your bullshit meter needs to go up, and no matter what whether it's club lacrosse, whatever it is, there's guarantees being put out there. Your bullshit flag meter needs to be raised and said something's wrong. What we need to say is look at our history.
Mm-hmm.
We still, we're not guaranteeing or promise you anything. Well, we promise you we're going to put you in really good tournaments and you're going to be coached hard. That's what we promise you, right? And where you go to school will depend on you and how you perform in those limited opportunities that you have. And that's your responsibility. But we'll look at our past history and where our players have gone to school, and it's a good history. But we're right. I think guaranteeing anyone anything is a mistake.
Yeah, obviously social media has a big part of the whole, mess that we're in, and kids announcing their commitments and so on and so forth, because it's like we've talked about it all the time, Matt, is players today, they get to the commitment and they're like, they wanted to let the whole world know. And what I tell players, and I know you have too, is that's just the beginning, right? And the parents that want to cheat, they want to cheat and play their kids down. And I always played my boys up. If they needed help, play up, see if you can play up. My daughter, play up. Yeah. If you don't, we're not playing down. No, either play your age or move up. And the other thing is, you can't cheat in college. You can cheat all you want, but when you get to college, there's no cheating at all. You're going to strap on the helmet and the gloves and the stick, and you can go out there and you're going to compete against kids that are the same age. And you know what? You're probably going to be at a major disadvantage.
Yeah. And the kids should be looking at coaches that care about them. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just going to tell a quick story before we wrap up here. I have a kid who just started playing when he was a freshman at Hopkinton. I coached him as a JV player for 2 years. He became a face-off guy. Okay. Going back to our previous conversation. And he got obsessed, and I saw that he wanted it. And I was like, you have to play club, man. Like, I don't care which one. He's like, which one do you recommend? I'm like, these are the two in New Hampshire. And he played for one, and then he played for another one. And I had no input on that. I was just like, these are the closest ones that you can play for. And he texted me almost every day and was like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And in season, out of season, it didn't matter. 11:30 at night, he's texting me, and he just wants it, right? Like, the kid just wants it. I was like, here, you got to work out. You got to do all this stuff. I'm giving him all the tools, right? And 2 weeks ago, I get a call from, I kind of want to just tell you who it is, but let's just say I get a call from a Liberty League coach. He's like, hey, I really like your kid. What can you tell me about him? And I tell him all these stories, and he's like, what's his potential? Is one of the questions he's asked is, are his parents a pain in the ass? And I was like, no, he's a good kid. And I think he's got a lot of potential. I don't think the level we play at is indicative of where he can go. I think you should talk to his club coach, all this stuff. And he's like, is the kid a good kid? I'm like, yes. He commits to that school 5 days later, and he calls me, and my girlfriend's in the kitchen making food or something. And he tells me he committed. And I walk into the kitchen and I just hug her and I start crying, because this kid came from nothing. And sorry, I'm crying on the podcast. The fact that he did it is all I could. I was like, he did it. He did it. He did it. And her son is 9. He's like, why are you crying? I'm like, it's good. It's good. I'm proud of him. I love him. I'm so happy he got this. But he would never have gotten it if he didn't do the work.
Right.
And the first thing I said to him was like, work starts now. We're going to do even more. It's time to do more. This is just the start of what you're doing. And the fact that I had this much to do with it is the thing that makes me emotional, right? Is because he was a lot. He's still a lot. My dude is still a lot. But you have to have that if that's what you want, right? No one will give that to you. And I hope that everyone understands that going into the recruiting process. We're about to hit September 1st for these 26s. I hope that you understand that. You can't just get a call and go, yep, good, I'm good. I'll just like wait for the season. I'll play 2 years and that's where I go. Cool. You can't do that. And I think that's super important for anybody listening to realize as we go into this very critical period for this class in particular.
I think your boy, the thing that we always say that probably the single most important thing for a college coach when looking at a player that's probably the most difficult to evaluate is competitiveness.
Yeah.
If you're not competitive and you want to play a high level of lacrosse or sport and you're not competitive, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
You're competitive, you'll find a place that you'll enjoy. You may not play, but you'll find a place you enjoy, and you'll find coaches that love you. I think, Kyle, one of the things you said is really, really important. When I show up looking at school, we look at a lot of really good schools, and my wife was all about academics. When it came down to it, she wanted him to go to this one school because of the coach. She didn't care. The rest of it was gone. It was like, I want my son around that guy. And I think that's really, really, I think that's important for parents to look at is who's going to be guiding my son through the next 4 years when they're going through some real growing and maturing or immaturing during the 4 years they're in college.
Yeah.
So important. And Kyle, we talk about the kids getting committed and so on and so forth. And I tell parents, focus on controlling what you can control, right? You can control getting better, working out, being a good teammate, high compete level. You can't control whether the coach is going to recruit you or not, right? You can't control that. But at the end of the day, Matt, I think you'll agree with this. The reason why the three of us are on this podcast, the reason why we're still involved in the game, I love playing lacrosse. I had so much fun playing. Recruiting, I didn't know what recruiting was. I didn't know what any of that was. I was playing because I loved every minute of it, and I played till I was 55. Kyle still plays. He blew out his knee. We played because we loved it. It was so much fun, and that's why some of these kids, they're playing because their parents want them to. They're playing because they want to get committed, but they don't know why they're playing. Play for the fun of the game.
Yeah.
Read.
It's a great place to end it on, Coach. We got to have you back. I feel like we barely scratched the surface of.
Anytime I'd be happy to come back. Thanks. Anytime I can hang out with Jack Piatelli, I'm in. Let me know.
Matt, it was a pleasure. I got goosebumps. Seriously, Matt. We go way back, and I've gotten to know your brother in Rhode Island, and it's such a small world. I'm very happy for your success. And your son played at Cornell. My two sons. It's just funny how things have happened. I'm just still happy to be here, Matt. I'm just so happy to be here, and it's a pleasure having you on. It was a lot of fun, really.
Anytime, guys. I appreciate you inviting me to come, and wish you both the best of luck in all the things you do.
Matt, no, we didn't invite you. You invited yourself.
I did not. I did not.
Hey, you just got to get me to Naptown. I need to get my budget up so I can go to Naptown next summer. That's my goal. That's what I want.
Oh, it's great. I'll be back. I love Annapolis. It's awesome.
Hard not to. It's an easy place to like.
Yeah, it's great. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Way better than Baltimore. Thanks again for listening to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Goal podcast. For Jack Piatelli, I'm Kyle Devitt. We'll see you next time.